As two world leaders meet in Alaska today, we pull back the curtain on the quiet yet massive international effort shaping Ukraine's future.
It's a really pivotal moment.
Today, August 15th, 2025, is a truly critical juncture. U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin are holding a highly anticipated summit in Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah, everyone's watching this one.
This meeting is being framed as a crucial first step toward potentially bringing peace to Ukraine. But what's truly remarkable is that even as these high stakes, direct talks capture global headlines.
There's this whole other layer happening.
Exactly. A detailed multinational effort for peacekeeping is already well underway, meticulously planned behind the scenes.
Right. We're talking about Britain's evolving vision for a reassurance force.
Yeah.
Concept that started pretty big, right?
Hugely ambitious, initially proposed at 30,000 troops, but it's since been strategically scaled back to a more targeted mission.
And this involves a coalition of the willing, is that right? 30 nations.
30 nations, yes, with over 200 military planners. They're all poised for deployment from day one after a ceasefire.
Okay, so ready to go once the fighting stops. And the focus is practical security roles.
Very much so, on-the-ground stuff. Yet, critically, Russia has already unequivocally condemned any such foreign military presence.
Calling it unacceptable and a direct threat. That's strong language.
It absolutely is. So, in this deep dive, we're going to unpack the specific tasks this proposed force would undertake, the guiding principles uniting this diverse coalition.
And crucially, the key points of agreement and, maybe more importantly, the sharp disagreements among these major global players.
It's a complex diplomatic puzzle, and we're going to help you put the pieces together.
So in this deep dive, our mission is really to peel back the layers of these complex sources you've provided. Looking at the proposed international peacekeeping mission in Ukraine and, well, all the intense diplomatic efforts around it.
Getting into the details.
Exactly. We aim to extract the most important facts and insights, helping you grasp the very real nuts and bolts, the practicalities on the ground of how a potential peace could actually be secured.
Not just the theory.
Right. We'll examine the precise plans, identify the key players driving these initiatives, and highlight the deeply contrasting viewpoints that define this pivotal moment. It's fascinating, actually, to see the level of granular preparation happening even as these high-level discussions dominate the news cycle.
So, given the backdrop of today's summit, let's begin by understanding the foundational efforts already in motion for peace. The initial concept for an international peacekeeping mission in Ukraine started quite grand, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Could you elaborate on that ambitious original plan and, maybe more importantly, what factors led to it being significantly revised?
Certainly. Initially, Britain, working closely with France, put forward a remarkably substantial plan. We're talking a 30,000-strong deployment of European troops.
30,000, that's a serious number.
Oh, it really is. This force was envisioned to station troops in vital locations across Ukraine. Think cities, ports, even nuclear sites.
Wow. And their roles?
Pretty clearly defined. Intelligence gathering, comprehensive airspace monitoring, and securing critical infrastructure. The explicit intent was presence, but importantly, strictly not on the front lines.
Okay, so a significant presence, but avoiding direct combat zones. That initial 30,000 troop commitment sounds incredibly ambitious, though. What does Europe's rapid scaling back tell us? I mean, the shift to a more targeted mission, does it reveal something about the realpolitik here?
I think it does.
Is it purely about risk aversion or maybe a deeper strategic calculus regarding Russia?
It absolutely speaks to the immense geopolitical pressures and the very real concerns over potential escalation. The sources point pretty clearly to a reluctance among some European governments.
Reluctance. Wow.
Well, primarily driven by the perceived risk of deploying a large force directly into Ukraine, even if not right at the front.
Right, the potential for miscalculation.
Exactly. This shift highlights a profoundly pragmatic, almost risk-averse approach. While there's a clear will to support Ukraine and secure peace, there's an even stronger collective desire to avoid any direct miscalculations or unintended confrontations with Russia. That really shapes what's seen as feasible on the ground.
Okay. So, if that large-scale vision was deemed too risky, what does this scaled-back, more targeted operation actually look like now? What would they do, and when?
The revised mission is designed with very clear triggers. It would launch only after a ceasefire agreement is reached and hostilities have definitively ceased. That's crucial.
Only after a ceasefire. Got it.
Then, multinational forces would be ready to act from day one. And geographically, its scope is primarily focused on Western Ukraine.
Western Ukraine. So deliberately avoiding frontline deployments.
Precisely. to minimize risk and avoid any accidental engagement.
That paints a much clearer picture of the preconditions and the scope. Now, can you detail the specific responsibilities this scaled-back force would actually undertake? What practical impact would they have beyond just, being there?
Oh, it's definitely more than symbolic. The proposed roles are quite specific and potentially impactful.
Like what?
First, there's air policing and deterrence. This includes air policing over western Ukraine, using Royal Air Force Typhoon and F-35 jets to actively deter Russian air activity.
Deterrence, okay. What's the goal there?
Well, twofold, really. To help restore international flights, get things moving again, and ensure safe skies for Ukraine.
Makes sense. What else?
Then, maritime security. A key element here is mine clearance in the Black Sea.
Clearing mines. That's vital for trade.
Exactly. To help reopen maritime trade routes and ensure safe seas, British naval ships would contribute to that effort.
Okay, air and sea. What about on the ground?
A crucial long-term element is training and support for Ukrainian forces. This means providing training assistance, things like logistical support, armaments, and training experts.
So building up Ukraine's own capabilities.
Precisely. The plan specifically mentions hundreds of British military instructors and engineers. The overarching aim, as stated in the sources, is to build the strength of Ukraine's forces.
Why is that seen as so important?
Because it's viewed as the best deterrence against Russia, relaunching their aggression. It emphasizes self-reliance as a foundational security strategy for Ukraine going forward.
Right, helping Ukraine defend itself in the long run.
And finally, the mission also serves as a general reassurance force.
Reassurance, meaning?
Meaning reinforcing any ceasefire that's agreed upon and providing robust and credible security guarantees for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. It's about making sure any truce actually holds and giving Ukraine the confidence it needs to rebuild.
So it's a dual strategy then. Immediate security measures like air policing and mine clearing, but fundamentally a long-term investment in Ukraine's own defensive capacity. That shift towards self-reliance really seems like a crucial takeaway here.
I think that's right.
Now, who exactly is part of this coalition of the willing that's meticulously crafting these plans? You mentioned Britain and France leading.
Yes, they're spearheading it, but it's truly a broad, concerted effort. It involves a coalition of the willing, that's a group of nations voluntarily coming together for this specific objective, comprising 30 nations.
30 nations, that's significant buy-in.
It is. And we're not talking about rough ideas here. Over 200 military planners from these nations have been working on detailed plans for months. European nations collectively support this realistic mission.
And the U.S., what's their position on this coalition effort?
Interestingly, U.S. President Donald Trump has also offered to join European forces in providing security guarantees in Ukraine. And some nations, like Lithuania, have explicitly stated their readiness to contribute troops.
Okay, so broad support, detailed planning. This raises an important question, though. Beyond the practicalities of troops and logistics, what are the fundamental rules or beliefs guiding this huge international effort? What principles are they standing on?
That's a really good question. Several key principles firmly guide this mission and the coalition's approach.
Such as?
First, the unwavering principle that international borders cannot be and must not be changed by force. That's just bedrock international law, a clear message against territorial grabs.
Right, non-negotiable. What else?
Second, a crucial point for Ukrainian sovereignty. Any path to peace in Ukraine cannot be decided without Ukraine's involvement, ensuring Ukraine has agency in its own future.
Makes sense. Ukraine decides for Ukraine.
Third, a peace deal must not restrict Ukraine's armed forces or its cooperation with third countries. And critically, Russia cannot have veto power over Ukraine's path to the EU and NATO.
Protecting Ukraine's future choices, essentially. Its right to choose alliances.
Exactly. And finally, a practical but vital rule for any deployed forces. British forces, for instance, if deployed, would maintain the right to defend themselves if attacked. Clear rules of engagement for their own security.
Okay, so clear principles underpinning the whole thing. We've got a picture of the plans, the coalition, the principles, but it's equally clear that not everyone is on the same page when it comes to the overall path to peace.
Not at all. There are significant differences.
While there might be some common ground, where do we see the most significant disagreements, especially on critical stuff like territory or even who gets to sit at the negotiating table?
Absolutely. Let's start with where they find common ground, because that's the foundation for any progress.
Okay, where do they agree?
All parties express a desire for a ceasefire as the crucial first step. That seems to be the consensus starting point. Everyone wants the fighting to stop.
A ceasefire first. Okay.
And the UK and EU leaders also support a combination of active diplomacy and continued economic pressure on Russia through sanctions.
Diplomacy plus pressure.
Right. And the U.S., too, is actively engaging in high-level diplomacy with Russia, as we see today.
So a ceasefire is the universal starting point, but the path beyond that seems fractured. Can you highlight some of the most critical disagreements, like on territory? That seems huge.
Oh, the divergences are incredibly sharp there, and they highlight the immense challenges. Let's take territorial integrity and borders.
Okay.
Ukraine, the UK, and EU leaders strongly affirm that international borders cannot be changed by force. Ukraine demands a full return to 2014 borders, specifically including Crimea.
That's their clear position.
But, in stark contrast, President Donald Trump has apparently suggested swapping land as part of a truce.
Swapping land.
That's the suggestion mentioned. And President Putin is expected to demand that Ukraine cede parts of the Donbas region, the contested area in eastern Ukraine. These positions seem fundamentally contradictory, very hard to reconcile.
Wow, yeah. Those are miles apart. What about the actual troop deployment we discussed?
Another major point of friction. Regarding the nature and acceptance of troop deployment, the UK and EU nations are ready to deploy their non-frontline reassurance force post-ceasefire.
Right, the scaled-back plan.
But Russia unequivocally rejects any NATO or NATO-affiliated troops in Ukraine. They call them unacceptable and a direct threat. Doesn't matter what banner they fly under.
So Russia says no foreign troops, period.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Which creates a massive hurdle for the coalition's plan. Meanwhile, Ukraine itself has actually expressed a need for a much larger peacekeeping force.
Larger than the coalition is planning.
Far larger. Stating it requires a minimum of 200,000 peacekeepers. So you have Russia saying none, the coalition planning a smaller force, and Ukraine saying they need way more.
That's complicated. What about Ukraine's future alliances? NATO, EU.
Another sharp divide. On Ukraine's future alliances. While EU leaders assert that Russia cannot veto Ukraine's path to the EU and NATO, President Trump has publicly ruled out Ukraine joining NATO.
Ruled it out entirely.
Publicly, yes. This isn't just a minor policy difference. It fundamentally redefines Ukraine's potential long-term security architecture and directly challenges the EU's vision.
And Ukraine's involvement in the actual peace talks.
Concerning Ukraine's involvement in peace talks, the UK and EU leaders insist quite strongly that peace in Ukraine cannot be decided without Ukraine's direct participation.
Which sounds logical.
It does. Yet Ukraine was notably excluded from the direct Trump-Putin meeting happening in Alaska today.
They're not there today.
No, which raises serious questions about whose interests are truly being represented in these initial high-level talks.
That's a significant point. Any other major divergences?
One more, perhaps broader U.S.-Russia relations. The U.S. under Trump has shown a willingness to potentially restore full diplomatic ties with Russia and explore wider geopolitical and economic partnerships if the war ends.
A reset, potentially.
Kind of. This contrasts quite sharply with the UK and EU's emphasis on combining diplomacy with continued economic pressure and sanctions. It suggests different priorities for the post-conflict landscape and future relations with Russia.
Okay, so a whole web of disagreements layered on top of the basic desire for a ceasefire. All these complex plans and deep disagreements really come to a head today, August 15th, 2025, with this Trump-Putin summit in Anchorage.
Exactly. It feels like a pressure point.
What are the immediate stakes for this meeting right now as it unfolds?
President Trump has been very clear on his goal. He wants to see a ceasefire rapidly and, quite simply, the killing to stop.
Get the violence stopped.
Yes. He has even threatened Russia with severe consequences if a ceasefire is rejected. So this meeting is genuinely seen as a potential first step towards peace.
A first step. What happens if it goes well?
Well, if progress is made, the sources indicate that a second trilateral meeting involving Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy could follow.
So bring Ukraine in for the next round, potentially?
That seems to be the idea. The immediate stake today is whether this first crucial step can actually be taken. Can they agree on anything concrete to move forward?
Given all the different positions we've just laid out, the conflicting views on territory, troops, alliances, what are the absolute key points to watch for regarding this meeting and its implications?
Well, while President Trump has stated he will raise the issue of Ukrainian territories, he also confirmed he will not negotiate for Ukraine.
Okay, he'll raise it, but not decide for them.
Right. That statement, combined with the, let's say, understandable concerns over Mr. Zelensky's exclusion from this initial meeting,
Yeah, that's still hanging there.
it highlights the very delicate balance between high-level, great power diplomacy and ensuring Ukraine's own voice is heard and respected throughout this entire process.
Finding that balance seems key.
Absolutely. The outcomes of this summit will significantly shape the path forward, not just for the peacekeeping mission we've discussed, but for the broader prospects of achieving any kind of lasting peace in the region. We'll definitely be watching closely to see if any concrete proposals emerge that manage to bridge some of those significant gaps we've talked about today.
It feels like a moment where things could pivot.
It certainly could. What we've seen in this deep dive is this clear picture of, on one hand, international resolve and these practical, detailed steps being planned for peace in Ukraine.
The coalition, the planners.
Right. The UK and the Coalition of the Willing are ready with that scaled-back, targeted mission air policing, mine clearance, training in Western Ukraine. They have 200 military planners from 30 nations ready to act from day one after a ceasefire.
That's a lot of preparation.
It is. But then, on the other hand, you have these sharp, fundamental divisions, Russia's outright rejection of any foreign troops, and these critical disagreements on territorial integrity and Ukraine's future alliances.
Two very different realities colliding.
Precise.
We've navigated the evolution of military plans, the principles guiding this vast international coalition, and this intricate web of diplomatic positions, all culminating in today's crucial Trump-Putin summit.
It's a lot to track.
It really is. And this isn't just about headlines or political rhetoric. It's about the very real conditions and commitments being laid out for Ukraine's future, impacting millions of lives on the ground.
The human element is always there.
So as these complex diplomatic chess moves unfold, here's something for you, our listeners, to think about. What do you believe is the most realistic path to peace that secures both stability and sovereignty in the long run?